Good afternoon. Today I'm very happy to welcome Laura Pellegrini. She's the producer of The Soldier and the Butterfly and also the director and writer of the film, Stefano D'Afrey. How are you, Stefano? How are you, Laura? Thank you very much
Thank you
for
for having
joining
us. Thank you
Great
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
You're welcome. First, I want to ask Stefano, tell me a little bit about, we've been discussing with Laura before the live about your previous work, and how did it lead to the writing and directing of The Soldier on the Butterfly?
It's a very, very good question. You know, a lot of things that happen through
Mm-hmm.
meeting people and connections. Laura and I had a documentary that was on MSNBC and the Meet the Press Film Festival with the American Film Institute. It was a very, very big festival, and that went on to an Oscar qualifier to St. Louis International Film Festival. And the title of the film is called "The Girl Who Cannot Speak." It's available on Plex. You can see the Girl Who Cannot Speak on Plex right now. When it was making its festival rounds, we went to St. Louis, and we met somebody who was on the board of governors, who was a dancer, a performing artist, and had worked with the idea and concepts of comfort women, Korean sex workers. And she had seen our movie. She had seen our film in competition, The Girl Who Cannot Speak. And because the subject matter was so delicate and so focused on human rights and sexual abuse, and that it was done in a very, very careful way, she felt comfortable to meet with me. And then Laura flew to St. Louis, and then we started from there developing the story of The Soldier and the Butterfly. Yeah. I'll also say a couple other things. Laura, do you want to add a couple extra things to this?
Oh, go for it. Stay on your track.
No, I mean, I think that we looked at, many pieces of material that Janet Park, who was the dancer, had already prepared. It was a one-woman show originally, and so many of the source materials were taken from that one-woman show of being a comfort woman herself, and then developing it.
Yes.
Laura and I felt very strongly about developing it into a two-person story, and
Yes.
that's where it really started. That was the genesis of that. So just to give you a timeline, this is 2018. The film has come out now in 2024. It'll be making its rounds to many Oscar qualifying film festivals. We just did Soho. We're going to be at St. Louis in November, which is another Oscar qualifier, and kind of nice because we all met there. But Laura and I felt very strongly about the idea of a young Japanese soldier and a Korean comfort woman.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Sharif, like Stefano said, considering the material that we dealt with in the past with The Girl Who Cannot Speak, knowing how sensitive that was, and knowing that it was able to reach a certain echelon of exposure, I think gave Janet a real reassurance that we were the right creative team to bring it forward.
Speaking of good short films festivals, I remember right now there is a very good film festival in Japan, and it's also Oscar qualifying film festival. I think you can look for it easily to submit the movie to it. It's called Shorts.
Shorts. We just submitted
Shorts.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good festival actually.
Tokyo. It's in Tokyo. Yeah.
Yes,
It's in
we invited in my country, Egypt, the representative once, and they give master class about writing a screenplay for short films, for
Yeah.
young students in Luxor, in Egypt. But Laura, tell me a little bit about yourself and your company.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
do you have a certain focus on the material you're trying to produce?
That's a great question. So Stefano and I met in 2015. I was doing a short film. I cast him in it. And we decided that we worked really well as a creative team, as a creative duo. And it organically evolved into a director-producer combination. And in 2016, we started making a couple of short films, ones that rose to prominence and then eventually became a landing pad for a feature film. We've done a couple of feature films at this point, mainly based in New York City. Sometimes we shoot in Canada. Sometimes we have the opportunity to shoot abroad in Ireland and do films for BAFTA qualifying film festivals. I would say, Stefano and I are always driven by narratives. And when I say narratives, I mean content that, is very specific and personal to the human experience and strikes an emotional chord with people, and also ones that are commercially viable. We really pride ourselves on finding stories that have a deep emotional resonance, but ones that can be told on a large commercial scale. If you ask Stefano about his directorial influences, he'll always say David Fincher. Steph, I don't mean to speak for you, but
no. I actually love where this is going. I found I'm finding it so. I find your answer
totally
so polished. Keep going.
But it's a director who directs and produces films that have an art house quality to them and are very sensual and compelling, but are marketable and can be positioned on a wide scale market. So I think over the years, because Stefano and I have had so many shorts in our creative arsenal, it's given us the ability now to start making feature films and to expand our network and to go in that direction, because ultimately that is how you move and grow as a production company, as you gain more clients and, expand your work base.
I think what I really... Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Laura, did you produce a feature film as well or not yet?
Yeah. For sure. That's Stefano directed. Yeah. It's called... let me let Steph speak on that one, because he worked really hard on it, and I was happy to be in the passenger seat producing with him in the driver's seat as the director. So,
well, first off, I want to say that Laura's answer is completely right before. Just that when you make so many different films and we're focused on a specific narrative, I think that you need to make you don't need to do anything, but for us, we feel the need to make our films be both artistically viable and commercially viable, and so there's an equilibrium that's balanced between that. The second thing I would say is that those films that we made have a lot of variety. The Soldier and the Butterfly is a film that takes place in 1941 in Japan, in South Korea. It's very mysterious and very lush and very there's elements of dance in it. It's an experimental work. But then the first feature that I directed and that Laura produced, Stolen Dough, is more similar to it's a crime docudrama. It's on Apple TV, and it's a crime docudrama about an inventor, Anthony Mongello, who had his patent for stuffed crust pizza that he had invented and patented stolen when he went into negotiation, stolen by Pizza Hut. And it follows the legal battle of him with this $1 billion lawsuit to reclaim back the rights for it. And I think we also, Laura and I go for underdogs, but we also go for a contrarian view that we find in our working relationship over the past 10 years that is important to us. That means that if everyone has the same perspective on who's bad and who's good, we're in the wrong frickin' place. We often would like to take the other side of that coin. And I think there's more artistic merits to the other side. And and that means that everyone has a point of view. Everybody feels that they're right. Everybody, including your antagonists and your bad guys, feel that there is some justification. And I think that all our films have that deep resonance of trying to give. There's no placeholder. There's no markers of just trying to move the story along. Everybody is a fully fleshed out point of view. and we like to try to beat consensus or go, have a contrarian view sometimes of some perspectives.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well said,
But
Steph.
I want to ask you, both of you, this question about what are the artistic and financial challenges of producing short films and distributing it nowadays through film festivals and apps and everything? What can you tell us?
What can we say? What can we say? What can we say? I can say a couple things, and I'll pass it to you, Laura. But I can say a couple good things about shorts that I really, why we've done many of them, and why they're important to do. They're financially less risky. So if you have producers involved that want to do it, a short film will cost you a lot less money. And so you can experiment with an idea. You can experiment with something that you're very passionate about, and the risk of losing it all is a lot lower, right? So that's a very good thing, and you can take more risks because, generally speaking, there's a lot less people involved than our feature films that have a lot more people involved and a lot higher amounts of money that you could lose. Just to pass on to the distribution, and I'll let Laura sort of talk about it, is that, I think that there's no secret that short films don't have a great financial recoupability, right? You're not able to necessarily make back all that money. There are very few platforms now, since in the past 3 years, Amazon took off short films, right? So Amazon took off short films. Tubi took off short films. Apple TV does not have short films. Netflix, it's extremely rare. It has happened. There are some, I can think of one instance of a California wildfire that occurred, and it's a very sort of specific short film that made it.
And sometimes these big networks like curate a group of shorts all together.
Yeah.
Like they have a certain theme, and as well, if I remember as well, like Moby as well.
So movies very good. Movies very good. I would recommend highly Plex. So Plex TV or Plex.tv, right? Plex is the company. Plex has great short films, great catalog, very curated, and I think has a great interface. Cineverse is another one. So Mubi, Cineverse, and
Plex.
Plex. Yeah. And maybe, Laura, you want to talk a little bit about sort of the differences and how features, sort of the responsibilities of features, and how that's different from shorts in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to piggyback a little bit off what Steph was saying, shorts have been a great opportunity for, like we said, for investors to put money in at a lower risk, and also for the creators to be more creative. You have the ability to be a little bit freer and messier, let's say, with a short, and more experimental, and kind of go in wilder directions. I think the big question is, how do you maintain that integrity when you're making a feature film? But the reality is there are more moving parts to making a feature, both through production and also post, and then into distribution. So Steph and I, we have nurtured relationships with not only sales agents but distributors over the years that have given us really good entries into Amazon Prime, where we have Stolen Dough, which is our feature film. We were also fortunate enough to be grandfathered into the shorts for Amazon Prime too. So we do have a couple of shorts that exist on their platform.
Great point. Great point.
Once you work with a sales agent who believes in your material and also believes in the bankability of your material and what's going to sell in different territories, I mean, Stefano, and let me just explain that a little bit. Stefano and I, we have an LLC. Our company is in both New York City and Canada. Now, what's helpful about having Canadian registration is that we are open to European co-funding. And a lot of our films do have that European sensibility that I think is very alluring to sales agents when they're looking at, domestic and international ways to posit the film.
Mm-hmm.
So you work really closely with your sales team, and then they're the ones who are going to work with distributors to get your film seen. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what you want. I think having a festival run for a film is a fantastic way to meet people in the industry and to flex those muscles of, potentially finding a niche audience and maybe winning a grand jury prize. But again, there's no guarantee in that. I feel like working with a sales agent and then flexing the muscles on how to distribute a film and getting your product seen and in essence consumed by audiences is the best learning experience that you can go through both as a director and a producer.
And Laura, wouldn't you also say that if someone came to us and had a project, and somebody had a project and said, I have a short film that I can do now, but I'd like to turn it into a feature, and it could be a feature,
right?
Like I think that there is a path, right? There is a path. Our second feature that Laura and I will be doing, second or third feature, depending on how what happens in our
timeline,
work life. But our one of our features down the road next year will be something that was developed as a short that turned into a feature film. Now, we can give you a lot of examples from Curfew by Sean Christensen that was developed into I don't remember the name that Miramax did the feature.
Before I Disappear, right?
Before I Disappear.
Bottle
Rocket.
Yeah, Bottle Rocket,
Bottle
right.
Rocket from Wes Anderson that turned from a short into a feature called Bottle Rocket.
For sure,
Obviously,
Sling Blade, if you remember, was the short film as well.
Sling Blade.
Yeah.
Sling Blade, yep. Another one is Thunder Road by Jim Cummings, who's really big on
Thunder Road that won at Sundance. So if you have a short film that wins, like Jim Cummings that had won at Sundance, you will get a chance to develop it. Also on the drums, Whiplash by Damien Chazelle was a short film that actually had J.K. Simmons, but
in the short version as well.
Correct.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So yeah, just to give the idea that young filmmakers or old filmmakers who have the idea for a short ready to go, and that the idea is bigger, that can be turned into a feature. Don't let that idea go. Don't abandon it because
because I think it's easy to pitch the idea if you have a visual presentation. You can consider the short as a trailer or a promo reel for the feature length film. And I remember in Europe as well, a lot of directors used to shoot, they have a feature film, they shoot like a promo reel or the master scenes of the film, instead of, doing a PDF or a presentation, it gives more sense for the for funds and for distribution, etc. But what interests me from the artistic point of view for the soldier and the butterfly, I mean, it takes us back to the origins of cinema, which is visual art, and a lot of critics, they call it pure cinema if you have less dialogue or no dialogue. So I want to ask you about the concept of this film. How did you manage to visualize it, and so with no dialogue?
Well, I think that it was very intentional. We always have a conversation between us as a creative team, that younger filmmakers have in general too much dialogue. Hollywood has too much dialogue. And if you want to really showcase your skills as a director, as a production team, as a producer, try to tell a great story with no dialogue or little dialogue. I, for myself, watch a lot of foreign movies, even if I don't understand them. And sometimes I won't watch them with subtitles, because if I can see the composition of the shot, I understand what's going on. If the film is well made, I understand. I'm probably catching 70%, right? 30% of specific things I'm probably missing, but 70% of the conflict, of the resolution, of the characters, their emotion, their feeling, their inner life, you catch, because it's a visual medium. When we began this project, myself, Laura, Janet, began with the idea of a one-woman show. And if we were going to start with the concept of a one-woman show and turn it into two characters, I wanted the first time that they speak only to say their names. Mm-hmm. And so the rest of the film is told through the visual camera work, through a steady cam, through the first time they see each other, and through grand and through important gestures. Yeah. The first time he walks in, opening the door, her seeing him through the mirror of her when she's putting on makeup, and then through that lens, he's in through that mirror, and she turns around and you see her reaction. Him going to the window and closing the door, and the light dispersing over her face. There is something that is in the deep, deep roots of cinema that is, 100 years old, that telling a story that is completely visually dependent and making it clear is an excellent exercise, and one of the most fulfilling things, I would say, as a director and as a production team. And I'll pass it to you, Laura.
Yeah. Also, our pre-production, Sharif, it was among the most extensive, because we had the added dimension of modern dance, and more specifically movement. A lot of what happens between these characters is prompted and present in the movement. It's not present in dialogue. It's present in the lack of dialogue and in the space in between. So adding that extra layer to camera work and working with the DP, working with the gaffer, working with choreographers, it was the most involved pre-production, especially for a short that we had engaged in probably ever. Right, Steph?
Yeah. So 4 months, let's say, of rehearsal. Yeah. One person lives in Brooklyn. Both Laura and I live in Manhattan. Janet lives in St. Louis. We all meet in New York City, usually at whatever places that we could find on the Upper West Side, or a lot of times in Soho.
Yeah, Wooster Street. They have a great dance studio space.
And we would, exactly. And I'm so glad that Laura touched on this, because it's something that I didn't mention. There is dialogue that occurs, but it's physical dialogue. It's through physical behavior. And I'm not, for me, like I'm seeing how the camera's moving a lot of times. So for me, it's the second thing I see. I see it, but it's the second thing I see. I'm seeing how we're going to show the reveals of certain physical spaces, right? How you show that physical space. And then Laura's exactly right, because both of us, Laura included, was involved very much in the choreography and supervising a lot of the choreography. There was really four people involved in the choreography: Laura, myself, Janet, and then an associate choreographer, Mary Ellen, who was involved. So the four of us it was very collaborative. It was, and there were different points of view, different ideas, things that people didn't like, things that people did like, and sometimes hitting points of conflict and then having to resolve those pieces of conflict. So movement is their dialogue. Camera movement is also their dialogue. Production design is very much their dialogue. And that is intentional, 100% intentional. Goes back to our first movie that Laura and I had done, that is on Amazon Prime, that is called Tu me manques, or You Are Missing From Me. And it is only told through voiceover. So the entire film was shot essentially with, MOS, which was, there was no sound unless it was Foley. Sometimes we had recorded, but there was no dialogue. Actually, there's one scene that has dialogue in that. The
little girl. Yeah.
Little girl.
Yeah.
Joanna by the park. But I love that because you're capturing stolen moments, and if you can do it and you can do it clearly, chapeau.
Yeah.
Hat off to you.
Chapeau. Très bien. But right now, Laura and Stefano, tell me about the film. It is selected right now in Soho Festival, and it was selected in other upcoming festivals as well.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. So Laura and I, after having given this much debate, because it costs there are a lot of financial resources that are involved to apply to Oscar qualifiers. And just so your audience knows, most film festivals have about an acceptance rate of 6%. The acceptance rate for Oscar qualifiers, BAFTA qualifiers, Canadian Silver Screen are about 3.5% to maybe 4%. Okay, so you have 96% of films that don't get accepted. It's the hardest ones to get into. So sometimes there's a debate, and I would imagine this with many, many other production companies and producers, that is this worth our money? Is this worth applying this film to these festivals with the no guarantee that it's going to get in? We were blessed to get into Soho and have a screening at the Village East Cinema Village by Angelica, so owned under the Angelica branch. And then in November, we will be screening at an Oscar qualifier. I don't have the dates yet, but the festival will take place from November 7th to November 17th. And I'll find out sometime, hopefully this week or in a week from now, those dates. When you guys want to find out, when your audience wants to find out the dates, you can go to www.comfortwomenfilm.com. Comfort women, plural, right? WOMEN film.com. And there's going to be a lot of updates to the exact date and time
information. Yeah.
In the theater that will be
exactly.
We also we've submitted to Sundance, to Slam Dance, to
Carmarthen Bay.
Yeah, Carmarthen Bay.
That's a BAFTA qualifying film festival.
Yeah,
and we were fortunate to have gotten films there in the past. And yeah.
You try to hit festivals. Yeah, you try to hit festivals that
go ahead, please.
Accepted into. Laura and I have been accepted to BAFTA qualified film festivals and Oscar qualifiers. So for us, our request is to the request that we put on ourselves is to always try to build the relationships and continue the relationships with the ones that know our work, right?
Exactly.
Because it's easy to get swallowed up in a pile.
Exactly. Yeah.
And right now, after The Soldier and the Butterfly, what are your dreams for the upcoming period?
Dreams, wow. Dreams. Oh, my dreams. My first dream is I have two dreams, two artistic dreams. My first dream is a beautiful film that we have. It's a feature film that Laura wrote, co-directed with me, and I've been doing the bulk of the editing.
Yeah, like 95.89% of the edit.
And really have been involved in, and I'm also in it as an actor. So it's a very personal story that we've been working on. It's a story about a blind painter, and it's a story about a blind painter who is raised by his grandfather, and you see him through childhood, and then grows up, and then moves to New York, and is a blind painter who is visited by an angel. It's a modern retelling of
It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
With like romance, mystery, suspense. And so this element of this story called The Blind Painter is what we've been working on for many years. That's my dream, to finish this film.
Yeah.
Principal photography has been shot. We just are still raising money for post production, and that's really the truth. You know, we're
It
closing.
hasn't. I just want to say, Sharif, it hasn't stopped us from visiting markets for the film. So I will be attending the American Film Market in November to talk to acquisitions teams. It's in a good position now to start having those conversations. I mean, Stefano and I, we're passionate about products, but in the meantime, you don't want to labor too much over the edit while ignoring the industry as it's happening. Because you never know when a film is going to capture a certain zeitgeist or when it's going to resonate with
Mm-hmm.
a buyer. It's important to pitch your material and to grow comfortable pitching it, at markets and at festivals, and to bring more ocularity to it. It's really important rather than just kind of than just simply chiseling away at a product in an editing suite, which Stefano has been doing a miraculous job at that, and then also at Cannes making those connections too. So the two of us as a team were hustling to, make people aware of it while it's being made, and I think that's an important thing for filmmakers to note when working on a project in post.
Stefano and Laura, I want to thank you very much for this great interview. And I enjoyed very much The Soldier and the Butterfly. And best wishes in the upcoming screening and the festival selection and your upcoming project together as well.
Thank you for having myself. And we are psyched for people, your audience, to see it, and we can
Sure.
keep your audience up when it's finally available widestream to see The Soldier and the Butterfly. But thank you so much for your time.
Great. Best wishes and thank you very much. Have a lovely evening. Take care.
Thank you, Sharif. You too.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.